Hello, this is some practice problems dealing with graphing exponential functions and graphing logarithmic functions. And this is how we do it without a calculator, because as it says right here in all capital letters, no calculator. Because it'd be too easy if you did. You'd plug it in, you'd plot some points and be done. So instead we are going to create our own table to plot some points and be done with it. And the way you make a table, I'm just going to do some space down here. When you make a table, you need at least 3 points, and the best points to use are the ones that would make this exponent 0 or 1 or -1. So like here, if x was -1, the exponent would be 0. So in my table, I want -1 to be my middle value. After that, the -1, you can just do 1 above and 1 below. And those are the x values we'll use. So here, if you're plugging in our first number of -2, -2 times 3 to the -2 plus 1, that'd be -2 times 3 to the -1st. Anytime you have something to the -1st power, you're just going to change it into a fraction. So instead of 3, it would be 1 over 3. Which is just going to be -2/3. 2 times 1/3 is 2/3. So -2/3 is going to go into our table. Next up is -1. If you plug in -1, then -1 plus 1 is 0. So you just get -2 times 3 to the 0. But anything to the 0 power is 1. So this is just 1 times -2. So -2. So I'll go down here and put -2. And finally, we'll plug in 0. If you plug in 0, 0 plus 1 is 1. So you get -2 times 3 to the 1st. Or -2 times 3, which is 6. So we'll go and finally make our graph. I'll graph these points. -2, -2/3, -1, -2, and okay, this should have been -6. I'm realizing now. 0, -6 would be down here like that. Okay. In order to finish up graphing it, we do have to determine the asymptote. Because this is exponential, it will be horizontal, which means it will start with y equals. And the number it equal to's is usually written right here afterwards, but as you can see, there's no number right there, so we're just going to put 0. So horizontally at 0, there will be an asymptote, which means this is going to curve like that. So we'll just go like this. Since it's going left forever and right forever, the domain will be all real numbers. The range looks like it goes all the way down to -infinity. It goes up until this asymptote, and the asymptote is at 0. And for growth or decay, you can just look at the base right here. The base is 3. Since that is more than 1, it is going to be growth. So I'll write growth. Okay. In the next one, this one's 1/3. Since 1/3 is less than 1, that means it's going to be decay. I'll just get that out of the way. For the horizontal asymptote, this time there is a number here. It's -3. So the horizontal asymptote will be at y equals -3. And I'll just go ahead and graph that now because why not? Boom. Heck, if I wanted to, I know the domain's -infinity to infinity, because all exponentials are. We'll go ahead and do an xy table up here this time. Here, x would have to be -2 to make this 0. So I'll make it -2, and then -1 and -3. So if I plug in -3, -3 plus 2 is -1. So you'd have 1/3 to the -1st minus 3. But once again, a negative exponent flips it upside down. So instead of 1/3, it's going to be 3. So this would be 3 minus 3, which is 0. If you plug in -2 plus 2 is 0. Anything to the 0 is 1. So you get 1 minus 3, which is -2. And finally, -1. -1 plus 2 is just 1. So you get 1/3 minus 3. This is probably the hardest one to do in your head, I suppose. 1/3 minus 3 is going to be -2 and 2/3. If you cook, it's not terrible. It's like if you have 3 cups and then you take away 1/3 of one of them, then you have 2 and 2/3. If you're not good with cooking and stuff like that, you could technically like make this a 3/1, multiply it by 3/3 as a common denominator to get 1/3 minus 9/3, which is -8/3. And then 3 goes into 8, goes into it twice with 6, minus you get 2, so you get 2/3 left over. And there you go, -2 and 2/3. But, you know, obviously that's a lot of work, so hopefully you just have the number sense to do that. If not, oh well. So, with that table now, I'll go -3, 0, -2, 2, and -1, -2 and 2/3. So it looks like this time it's going like this. So we'll go like that. So domain is all real numbers. And this time the lowest it gets is -3. And the highest is infinity. Once again, parentheses, because infinity is always parentheses, and an asymptote is also a parenthesis. And that is the front side. Back side in a second.